Yo, what is up, guys? It is Nico, the Notorious Fantasy, back at today with another fantasy football video. In today's video, I got Week 15 waiver wire ads. Now, before I get into this video, I'd like to give you guys a word from my friends and my sponsor over at OverlayDFS.com. OverlayDFS.com is my favorite way to play daily fantasy football. Now, they allow 10 max lineups in each contest. Obviously, I typically play the progressive game, and the reason why I play the progressive game is because if you're in the top 10%, you win 9 times your buy-in. In the $2.5 game, that's $18. In the $22 game, that's $180. And in the $109 game, you hit that top 10%, you get $900. But here's the kicker. If you hit that beautiful 12-0, which you're going to be striving to get in the $22 game, which is obviously, guys, the game to play, you could hit over $9,000. By the time it is Sunday, it may be over $10,000 if you hit that beautiful 12-0 and all of the stars align. Obviously, there are other people in the contest, but it's pretty much just you versus the board. You only really have to worry about your score and the score that is going to get you to hit that cash and that top 10% money. So, obviously, guys, I'm going to show you how it works real quick so that you have a better understanding of it. You're going to be making 12 picks plus 3 alternate picks. Those alternate picks are so if someone gets hurt, then that matchup gets voided, and then you just take one of the games from your alternates. You're also going to be making it so you put them in order of how confident you are to get more points for the tiebreaker if you and someone else happens to tie. So obviously at the top, you would want to put the games you're most confident in. It's pretty much just player versus player. It is not that complicated. Who will score more fantasy points, Lamar Jackson or Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins? And my favorite thing to do is stack some players. So I like to go with 2 players on the same team. You can go with Aaron Rodgers, right? I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a big game, so I also am going to match him with Devontae Adams. So if they both have a big game, that's an easy 2-0 there for me. So make sure to check out OverlayDFS.com, link down below in the description. Come join me. I will be playing this week. I play every single week. It is going to be a blast. Let's go. And we are back. Make sure to check out OverlayDFS.com, link down below in the description. Let's get right into this video. Week 15 waiver wire ads. Now, we begin with the running backs here. Now, the running back list this week is a bit dry, since there's just really no one to fucking pick up. All the running backs that are healthy, they're fucking healthy, so there's no one to really pick up. The fucking running backs that are hurt, you don't even know if they're going to play this week. They may be coming back this week, and that is the case with DeAndre Washington, running back of the Oakland Raiders. Now, obviously, if Josh Jacobs misses time, he will be a good start next week up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He outsnapped and outperformed Jalen Richard week 14 in their loss against the Tennessee Titans. Now, he filled in well for Jacobs week 14, like I said. 14 rushes for 53 yards and 1 touchdowns, as well as 6 receptions on 7 targets for 43 yards, 21.6 PPR points. So obviously, I honestly did not assume that this would happen for him. I thought it was going to be much more of a split between him and Jalen Richard, but it really turned out to be the DeAndre Washington show. Even in this loss up against the Tennessee Titans, I really think he showed how good of a running back he could be in the passing game as well as in the running game. And I just think next week, if he is missing when they play up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team you could certainly run on, I think that DeAndre Washington will be able to perform big, but I am worried that Josh Jacobs may return. Last week, he took a shot in the arm, and they still didn't let him play. But now that they're eliminated from the playoffs, I'm not sure if they're going to let their young back, the guy that they look for in the future to be great and talented like he was this year. I'm not sure if they let Josh Jacobs go, but with that said, if he does not play, DeAndre Washington is definitely a great start this week in fantasy football. Coming in at number 2, we have Raheem Mostert, running back of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, he's been dominating the backfield on the San Francisco 49ers the last couple of weeks. Early in the season, it was Tevin Coleman, and then it was Mostert and friends back there in the backfield. You saw Jeff Wilson scoring fucking touchdowns. You saw the whole squad getting in there. But at the end of the day, it's looking like it is Raheem Mostert's backfield. He has played great the last 3 weeks. Week 12 up against the Green Bay Packers. 7 touches for 45 yards and 1 tutty, plus 1 reception on 22 yards, 13.7 PPR points. Week 13 up against the Baltimore Ravens. 9 touches for 146 yards and 1 touchdown and 2 receptions for 8 yards, 23.4 PPR points. A week 14 last week up against the New Orleans Saints. And what was probably the best game of the day up against the New Orleans Saints? An amazing game game, 10 touches for 69 yards, nice, and 1 touchdown, and 2 receptions for 40 yards, and a touchdown in the fucking passing game and in the rushing game for 24.9 PPR points. So a huge game out of Raheem Mostert. Right now, he is probably my number one pickup at the running back position. DeAndre Washington will be great as well. I think he could even be better than him if Jacobs is gone. But right now, Mostert, even in that cluttered backfield, I believe has shown that he is the number one guy on the San Francisco 49ers running back committee. Next guy here, we got AP, Adrian Peterson, running back of the Washington Redskins. Now, this guy may be old as fuck, but with Geis out, there is still a lot worse options than Adrian Peterson for the rest of the season. AP has played well the last 2 weeks, even with Geis in the game. And even though the majority of his season this year has looked kind of iffy, kind of shit in comparison to what AP used to be. Obviously, he's getting up there in age, so that could be due to it. But week 13 up against the Carolina Panthers, 13 touches for 99 yards and 1 touchdown, as well as 1 target, which got him 15.9 PPR points. And week 14 up against the Green Bay Packers, 20 touches for 76 yards and 1 touchdown for 13.6 PPR points. So 2 solid games in a row for AP. So I definitely think he's an okay slot in for your flex or your RB2 if you're really dying in the playoffs to have a running back that you need to start. So if you guys have enjoyed this far, please make sure to knock one time and click on that subscribe button for me down below. It would really mean a lot if you're new. And if you're not new, please make sure to click that like button also down below. Let's keep getting back into it. At the wide receiver position, my number one wide receiver pickup this week is Deebo Samuel, wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, even with Kittle and Sanders back in the lineup, playing well, he has still performed. He has had a great last 5 good games in a row. Week 10 up against the Seattle Seahawks, 8 receptions on 11 targets for 112 yards, 19.2 PPR points. Week 11 up against the Arizona Cardinals, 8 receptions on 10 targets for 134 yards, 21.4 PPR points. Week 12 up against the Green Bay Packers, only 2 receptions on 2 targets, but still got 50 yards and 1 touchdown for 13 PPR points. Week 13 up against the Baltimore Ravens, 2 receptions on 4 targets for 41 yards and 1 touchdown, 14.1 PPR points. A week 14 up against the New Orleans Saints. I said I believe that was a very good game, probably the best game we've seen all year. 5 receptions on 8 targets for 76 yards, 15.9 PPR points. He's been dealing with injury this whole time. It seems like that arm, that shoulder type of injury he's been dealing with is pretty much gone. And week 14, he's still balled out. So I believe that week 15, yet again, he will have another great game. Next wideout we got here is A.J. Brown, wide receiver of the Tennessee Titans. Now, to me, he is much more of a dice roll. You know, you fucking get the dice in here, you shake it up, and you throw it at the fucking wall. And he could be a big play option for you up against the Tennessee Titans, the Houston Texans. He's on the Tennessee Titans, the Houston Texans this week and week 16 up against the New Orleans Saints. So while I think that he is much more of a dice roll play, he has a really low floor, but his ceiling is the fucking roof, right? He could fucking go out there and ball out for you. His last 3 weeks, he has played great aside from and his week 14 game was phenomenal. Week 12 up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 4 receptions on 5 targets for 135 yards and 1 tutty, 23.5 PPR points. Week 13 up against the Indianapolis Colts, 3 receptions on 4 targets for 45 yards, 7.5 PPR points. And week 14 up against the Oakland Raiders, 5 receptions on 7 targets for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns for 33.6 PPR points. I really think him and Ryan Tannehill definitely have a great connection on that team, and I think that A.J. Brown, I should say, is a guy that you're going to be starting. While he is risky, he is definitely worthy of a pickup this week for me. Next guy here at the wide receiver position, we have Anthony Miller, wide receiver of the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears have been super hot fire, and so has Anthony Miller this last couple of games. The past 4 games, week 11 against the LA Rams, 6 receptions on 11 targets for 54 yards, 11.4 PPR points. Week 12 up against the New York Football Giants, 6 receptions on 9 targets for 77 yards, 13.7 PPR points. Week 13 up against the Detroit Lions, 9 receptions on 13 targets for 140 yards. Great game from him, 23 PPR points. And week 14 up against the Dallas Cowboys, 3 receptions. 13 receptions would be crazy. 3 receptions on 4 targets for 42 yards and 1 tutty for 13.2 PPR points. Now, obviously, while you are relying on Trubisky, the one who loves to kiss titties, the guy who his season has told 2 different tales. The beginning of the season, he looked looked like a fucking idiot. He looked terrible. The last couple of weeks, he has been on fire NBA Jam style. So I like Anthony Miller for the next couple of games and a guy that you may be able to rely on for your fantasy playoffs. Now onto the tight end part of the video. So if you guys have enjoyed thus far and you have not subscribed when I asked you to before, but I know you did because you are a nice human being, please click that subscribe button, knock one fucking time if you're with me. And you also click that like button down below because you know you love me. David Njoku, tight end of the Cleveland Browns, plays against the Cardinals week 15, and they just let tight ends score on them at will. They just spread like Moses spread the Red Sea, and they run straight through there. They let the Titans zigzag their way straight into the end zone and let down week 14 on his return. He was a letdown, okay, guys? I am not going to sugarcoat it. Week 14, he played the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that also lets tight ends score at will. And he shit the bed. 1 receptions on 3 targets for 4 yards, 1.4 PPR points, while that whole Browns team kind of looked like shit in that game. And except for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Last season, he averaged 9 PPR points per game. So obviously, if you're in quite the pickle this week at tight end because you had a guy like Ryan Griffin get hurt, or Mark Andrews who's going to be questionable for Thursday, even though he says he's good to go, David Njoku could be a guy that you can pick up and rely on in the playoffs. I am a bit nervous about him, and I feel a bit safer with the next guy here, but I think David Njoku could be a great play for the next couple of games, especially since the Browns schedule is not all that hard. The final tight end of the video and the final player to talk about in the video, even though there are some guys after this, there's no fucking screen for them, but I will give you a preview of some other guys that I like. Mike Gesicki, tight end of the Miami Dolphins, has looked good the last couple of games, aside from last week up against the New York Football Jets. His last 3 weeks, week 12 against the Cleveland Browns, 3 receptions on 7 targets for 28 yards and 1 touchdown, 11.8 PPR points. Week 13 up against the Philadelphia Eagles, 5 receptions on 7 targets for 79 yards and 1 touchdown, 18.9 PPR points. Laid the fucking hammer down on the Philadelphia Eagles in week 14 up against the New York Jets. 1 reception on 5 targets for 6 yards, 1.6 PPR points. And if they are missing Devontae Parker, who it seems like he has a concussion, he may not play on Sunday, Mike Gesicki is going to shove his fist so far down the Giants' ass. You don't even understand. I love Mike Gesicki this week up against the New York Giants. And while there is no other slides, honorable mention to Bon Scott. Now I know, or Boston Scott is his name. And you might be thinking, Nick, who the fuck is that guy? And you want to know why you probably don't know who that guy is? Because you didn't watch the Giants game versus the Eagles, because it was fucking terrible. It was a shit show. The Giants hammered them, and then the Eagles hammered them, and then they fucking won in overtime. The Eagles won. But Boston Scott balled out last week, all right? Miles Sanders might be kind of hurt. He got taken out of the game, came back in. Maybe it's Boston Scott time, but I would not be able to rely on him, so he's just there. Just saying, could be an okay play. If you're feeling a bit dangerous, you can play him. Same thing with Jalen Richard. Now, if Josh Jacobs is out for multiple games, I think Jalen Richard could also get some use in that backfield, even though DeAndre Washington dominated that backfield this week. So thank you guys all for watching this video. If at any point you end up enjoying, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. Knock one time if you're with me. Make sure to have a great rest of your day on a Tuesday. We'll come back with more videos tomorrow on Wednesday. Click the fucking subscribe button down below. I love each and every single one of you guys. Make sure to have a great rest of your day. Check out overlaydfs.com. Link down below in the description. Goodbye, my friends.